Okay, so wow, there's something really quite bizarre happening, kind of. I'm feeling a lot of very strange sensations, and a lot has been going on this weekend. It is now Monday, and for the last, oh my goodness, since Lionsgate and the Sirius Stargate, it's just been pushing hard. But what I recently, that awkward feeling is going away, that's good. The thing that's really been coming through for me is that these are cleaning up timelines and very specific thematic problems in timelines. And oh, thank you. That's why there are timelines that are being eliminated, because in the new paradigm and the new Earth, in collaboration, there's no room for dominance. So any timeline that was synthetically or artificially gaining ground or traction or power and all of that, which would be through domination and force, manipulation, coercion, gaslighting, all that crappy stuff, any of those timelines are being terminated. They're either neutralized, they're being terminated one way or another, as in the entire timeline has been neutralized by no more children, death, whatever, or it's just completely, it's neutralized by an ascension of some kind, whether it's death of the actual people, death of the behavior, death of the old ideas, death of, that curse that we still stay in the dark and do dumb shit over and over and over again. So there's, let's see, I'm a little bit lost. I've been smoking a little bit today. The last few days it was huge, trying to process and being the conductor of an orchestra, being able to hear the different pieces coming in, the different instruments coming in, the different sounds that they make, and some that are a little bit more noticeable than others. Why is that noticeable? Is it because it's out of tune? Is it because it's dominating that section? Is it that that's the prevailing theme there, and that makes sense and it's balanced? That's the artistry of being the conductor. And in energy it's the same. Whenever I'm seeing things in Reiki, and working with the colors and working with the energy, and just in that process of hearing what's coming in, the downloads, and being able to separate out and say, okay, this is going here, that's going there. Mostly the process is about release, because this sifting and aligning is happening regardless. It is happening regardless. It is just much less painful for me as a person, the collective as a whole, and the whole process, if we surrender and go with it, without just completely surrendering to everything and being victimized, and also without refusing to surrender anywhere, and be in charge. We're neither one of those things. We're neither a victim, nor are we fully in charge. We are truly co-creators. So this cleaning up and aligning of the bloodlines, the 12 tribes of Judah, the Lion of Judah, how significant that is, I'm not exactly sure, but it does line very nicely. Getting a lot of information about it, that it lines up very nicely with the concept of the 12 tones of a chromatic scale, in music. So we're lining up and aligning with the harmony of the universe. We're, pulling together all of these pieces, all of these instruments, all of these voices, all of these energies in one orchestral arrangement here. And some of that shit just sounds really bad. Some of it just, it's out of tune. It's we don't, we're not really in harmony here. So that's what the Schumann resonance, if you will, is kind of pulling Mother Earth into, she's herself pulling into her own healthiest, most divine energy space as she continues to ascend and make the changes that she needs to make, and make the adjustments that she needs to make, and to grow and to continue, and as she continues to align, and the outside help and the celestial beings, the entities that support us, they're helping us as well. They're helping us pull together all of those bloodline ideas that were, just terrible bastardizations of truth, where it went left and looked the other direction and said, yeah, I really don't want to do that because decadence just is a hell of a lot more fun. Anywhere where that was really powered into and turned into an entire way of life, a bloodline, a blah, addictions, prostitution, human trafficking, any kind of sex crimes, any kind of, high dollar pirating, looting, that kind of stuff. I mean, all of it is just the extension of the soul looking to evolve and grow itself and pull itself into some sort of evolution. It just decided to evolve laterally into something that there's no real higher thought on this. You're just evolving the worst part of you, and we can definitely develop either end of that stick, where we're developing a kind of mediocre, not the best, certainly not the worst, however it's certainly not the best that we could be, that's ascended in higher mind. We could also be over here just really tooling it hard and being real invested, and let me go over here and down, let me see, I've checked out over here, and then let me see if I can just make this worse, because we get into that negative feedback loop. We're taught that, we're fed that, we're bred that, we are part of that. That's part of our generational curse garbage, is that we're fed this idea of dominance, we're fed this Age of Pisces crap, in its imbalance and in its negative aspects. When it became imbalanced, it was too much, and now we're moving into that Aquarius. We're in that rocky space where we're in a transition period. We're in a, the company's been taken over by, a different owner or a different organization, or however we want to look at it. But there's a merging of heaven and earth. So we're going to have that merge period. It's going to have some transitional bumps and bruises that, some of us are going to experience those. If we're real close, to the eye of the storm, we're going to feel a lot less. If we're experiencing the eye of the storm pretty much as the storm, and we never experience those horrible outer bands or anything, it's a very different experience for us than the people who are experiencing the worst of the storm in the outer bands. And that's how aligning and pulling all of that in more into that stream, of consciousness, and into the flow, the synchronicity, the flow of the now, universal flow, pulling into that. That's what that 12 tribes concept is, the 12 points of contact with the chromatic scale, and everything in between. There's lots of tones in between, but it's that idea that it's just pulling us into that streamlined consciousness where, it's taking the chaos of what it takes to live life and be in this polarized existence, which is quite chaotic. It's taking all of that and it's putting it through the correct paradigm, which is, the structure of what we're changing and moving into, which is a kind of collaborative experience for everyone, where the basis of understanding is not dominance. The basis isn't that I have to automatically be suspicious of you or automatically move into any one position at all. I can just move into the position that I already stay in, which is me. I've got no reason to come at you, be afraid of you, be intimidated by you, or to instill fear or intimidate you either. We've got no reason to be oppositional. We're coming at this experience from a completely different understanding that we're not here to, take from one another. We're not battling for anything here. There's nothing. We all have enough. And when we get enough people on board with that, there's less and less and less and less concern, with where's mine? What about my part? Well, what about this? What about that? Well, that's not fair. We're not worried about that kind of stuff because we're no longer looking at it in an evaluation kind of society. We're no longer putting, some sort of substantial value, we think, on human life or our time or something like this. We're not putting a value related to a 3D experience, because when we put a value like that on it, we completely cap the experience right there. That no matter what we're doing, no matter how far down in our vibration we are, or no matter how far up we are, we put a cap on it. So it's really about pulling into more and more alignment with there's more than enough resource for everyone, and I need to probably redesign what I consider, my priority and what is considered an important resource. What is a resource? Is my resource that I'm enjoying the suffering of others? Then I'm down here perfecting my villain. I'm evolving my villain, my worst part of me, rather than my best part of me. And with all of this stuff that's happening, the stargates, the portals, and all of these alignments, and the codes that are coming routinely, light codes, sound codes, and all of the support that we get from other dimensional creatures, the interplanetary stuff, the intergalactic, all of it, whatever the source of it is, it may not all be intended for good always from its source. Universal source is always good, always, always, always. However, there may be stuff that we're dealing with that is not always intended for our good. However, spirit and our own guidance system, which is connecting directly with that, can help guide us and direct us through that to use that for our good. No matter whether somebody else, you meant it for evil and God meant it for good kind of thing. And I'd like to tweak that briefly and just say that you may have meant that for evil and I used it for good. I made lemonade because I just didn't want to suck on a lemon all day. Or I got very, very invested in getting okay with how yummy and delightful a lemon tastes. I mean, whatever we have to do, not to lie or deny. However, to get very okay with and very at peace with, that's the true power in coming into that alignment, 1111, of my assignment. What's most important to me? What are my priorities? And how do I move about the cabin freely without restricting anyone else? How can I be in alignment more with 12 clean tones rather than all of the sharps and flats and the dissonance and the disharmony and the out of tune, the stuff that's out of time. A banjo that just completely, nothing wrong with banjos, it's just my least favorite instrument, one of them. But if you take them, they're playing out of tune, they aren't in sync with one another. It sounds very harsh to listen to for most people. And so it's really about, make the analogy however it feels, but it's about cleaning up all of those frazzled, loose, kind of emotions, which is our energy display. That's how we, let the world know how we're interacting with our environment, is how we're, how we're energetically and emotionally, 1212, interacting. And if we're finding ourselves interacting in ways that are very volatile, very up and down, very imbalanced, very, all over the place, that means our energy needs some regulation, and some monitoring, and we need to really be interfacing with our environment differently and our own understanding of how we're processing what's going on. Because a normal resting face for a human being, no matter what level of consciousness they are on, if they're born into it and they're allowed to grow naturally from that state of what they were born into, they will be able to find the guidance to deal with every single thing in their life and find that joy and happiness that resides in that spot in them that is pure forever and ever and ever, amen. And before it gets too contaminated after leaving the womb, or however long before it gets kind of started talking too dirty in the womb, whenever that programming from outside starts to really take effect and take hold. But we still all have that little nugget. We all have that God seed, that God potential, the universal intelligence. We all have that in us. It's a matter of how much can we grow that, know that, and really remember that, recall that, and really, 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 really fiercely protect it before it gets completely programmed in a different direction, and it might distract us and take us away from being able to do that work. And some of us never do it at all. And some of us, it takes us a lifetime. All of us that are doing it, it takes a lifetime because it's a continuous process. But it does come to, a more glorious place where we're less dealing with all the demons and stuff. It does slow down. It doesn't, however, for as long as we're denying and, pretending like this whole band is terribly out of tune. It sounds horrible, and we're just saying that we like this because we don't want to stand alone in a crowd and say that kind of sucks, doesn't it? I mean, if you're looking for racket, fantastic. However, 1414, however, I wasn't looking to pay for some racket. I was looking to hear something really fantastic and be inspired, and a place where I can share in the experience and really enjoy it. And yeah, we have to redefine most of us what it is that we enjoy, and consuming other people or their life or their joy or anything like that and trying to thieve that or anything about them, it's not what brings me joy, and it's really not our natural space for it to bring any human joy. So that's, yeah, 1444, that's enough. I'm gonna stop blubbering now.